Hi everybody! My Don patron Enzo sent me this TikTok of a lady telling us all of the things, all of the reasons why heaven is a scary place. And we're gonna listen to her, bit by bit, okay? Is that alright with everyone? Even if it isn't, I don't care. If you want me to respond to something else, become a Don patron. Okay, here we go.
Why I'm scared of heaven. Viewer discretion is advised. Genuinely, if the afterlife or lack thereof is a sensitive topic for you, you can just scroll. Please take care of yourself. Usually there are two different views of heaven that people believe. The first one is that you will be happy, eternally worshiping God, singing hymns, bowing down on your knees, etc. Which, first of all, why would a loving God want or need eternal worship? Being stuck with billions of people bowing down a gazillion times forever and ever doesn't sound fun to me. The second view that people have is that heaven has similar settings and objects as Earth does, like golden roads and gorgeous beaches, and you can do whatever you want forever. But that's the problem. You can do whatever you want forever. Forever is a concept that cannot even be imagined by humans. Imagine
Beaches? I never heard there were beaches. Okay, so in the whole of the 4-minute clip, she says a lot of things about why she finds heaven scary, but as you break it down, it seems that she's saying just one thing, and she uses a lot of examples and asks questions that express this one thing. The thing is, if I put it neatly into a single statement, it's that perfection and happiness are boring and inhuman. That seems to be the core of why she finds the idea of heaven, or her idea of heaven, to be scary. Now, there is a part of me, perhaps it's my temperament, that is inclined to entertain this notion. There seems to be something, artistic and melancholic about such a statement. But is it true? No, it's not true. Everything that we experience and play out and pursue in the material world is an attempt to be happy and to reach perfection. Heaven, or the beatific vision, the inner essence of God, is the satisfaction of our most deep human longings. There are many caricatures of what heaven will be like, and there are equally as many misunderstandings. It's quite clear why that is. It is because we cannot know. For now we see as in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. For now we know in part, but then we will know just as we are known. This is one of my favorite sayings of St. Paul. What follows is, "For now abide faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love." And I was reflecting on this a month ago, and I realized why love is the greatest of these in the context of the passage. Faith and hope are necessary for this life. Love transcends this life, and it is in fact eternal. Hence, God is love. Heaven is our sharing in God, God-likeness. I like this woman's video. It's not something I would usually respond to, but she's not saying anything bad. I think she's wrong about much of the things she said, or that for whatever reason she's got some misunderstandings about the Christian faith and about heaven specifically. She presents two views of heaven according to her understanding. In the first view, in heaven, everyone will be perfectly happy and worshipping their creator for eternity. This to her is problematic because not only is this boring, but she believes it's contrary to God being love. She says, "Worshipping God forever and ever doesn't sound fun to me. And why would a loving God want or need eternal worship?" She believes it's contrary to love because she envisions worship as an overriding of our free will, as though there will be something better we'd rather be doing, but can't, because we're being compelled or forced to worship God instead, which would indeed be contrary to love. But that's not the case. So let's go through some of the examples and the questions that she brings up.
Read every book ever written an unlimited amount of times. I could paint every painting that could possibly exist. But will you meaningfully enjoy doing any of it? You can do every
Will you meaningfully enjoy doing any of it? If I can do whatever I want forever in heaven, every possible thing, will I enjoy it? Well, let's first consider why she might suggest that we wouldn't enjoy it. Perhaps for a similar reason that a person who seems to have everything that they ever wanted in this life, all the money, all the whatever it is that satisfies their desires, all the material goods, all the pleasures, all the everything. They can do whatever they want. What is the reason that we see so many times that people in these positions where they can do whatever they want, why is it that we see these celebrities, these politicians or what have you, who really have set out to achieve their heart's desires and they actually did it? They went out and they got it. What is the reason that such people end up committing suicide or engaging in various kinds of self-abuse? Well, as I said, everything that we do here in the material world is an attempt to satisfy a deeper, more genuine longing. Further, we are seeking in part what we can have and hopefully will have in full in heaven. That is perfection. Let's take sex, for example. Sex is good, it is holy, it is blessed. We here and now can experience this goodness, this holiness, this blessing. But there's no sex in heaven. In and of itself, the sexual act, the physical sexual act, points to something greater. The physical is the mirror through which we see the non-physical or the spiritual or the supernatural dimly. She asks if we will meaningfully enjoy doing all of the things we want to do. Now, firstly, all of the things we want to do currently right now may be coming from a place of brokenness. So these things that we want to do may not actually be good things for us. Secondly, in heaven, in perfection, all of the things we will want to do will flow from a perfected will, meaning all the things we want to do will be good and holy, and we will indeed, therefore, meaningfully enjoy them because we will be experiencing them in their fullness and in our wholeness, not in part. We will experience the true essence of the things, the good things we enjoy here on earth in this life. That perfection, those pleasures are incomprehensible for us right now.
heaven, and I quote, "There shall be no more death, nor sorrow, nor crying, nor pain." Let's say your passion on earth was, random example, basketball. What meaning can basketball have if you can't fail at it? If you make the shot every time, it is no longer special. There is no pain or disappointment from missing a shot, so what is the meaning? Also,
I think this is a related point to what I've just said. She seems to believe that the enjoyment that we take in our passions is found in failure and pain and disappointment. But that's not true to the human experience or to reason. A person who is passionate about, say, playing basketball, plays and practices to be the best that they can be at the thing that they love. Failure, pain, disappointment, these things are teachers, but these are not the reasons, the goals of our passion. If a person sets out to fail, if they set out to be disappointed, if they set out to bring pain to themselves, if that's what's behind the thing you're doing, we all recognize that as unhealthy. These things, pain, failure, disappointment, they can help us to achieve our true purposes or goals. As I said, they're teachers. They're simply part of the pursuit, but they are not the end.
Materialistic things like fancy cars and diamonds would mean absolutely nothing because everybody has an unlimited supply of everything.
Again, we all know that the materialistic things we're pursuing are stand-ins. This, I think, is a very low view of heaven. And it's actually just a very low view of pleasure. It's a very low view of even the pleasures that we can access this side of eternity. If all you're pursuing is shiny diamonds and really loud, fast cars, what are you? This is a very low view of heaven. That in heaven we will have fancy cars and diamonds and that will be our satisfaction. This is demonstrably false because we have those things here, now, and we are not satisfied with them. We are not happy with them. Not ultimately.
Can you be perfect and happy all the time and still be yourself? Who are you without your sadness? Are your sad memories erased? Your memories are a part of who you are. Some will say you can look back at your sad memories without being sad. If I don't feel sadness looking back at sad memories, that means either my brain has been altered or the memories have been altered. Let's say your whole family makes it to heaven. If everyone is perfect, are there arguments or disappointments? And if not, is that really your family? If I can't have a disagreement with my mom, is she really my mom?
I actually really like that question. Who are you without your sadness? I've said this before in a different context. It is precisely because we are in a state of imperfection that we identify ourselves by our sadness. More specifically, we identify ourselves by our brokenness. Eventually, God brings us to a place in this life, perhaps multiple times, depending on, how ready and willing we are to listen to him. But he brings us to a place in this life where he presents us with a fork in the road. So throughout life, you're gaining understanding, you're gaining knowledge, you're gaining wisdom, you're learning about yourself, and God is revealing certain things to you. And basically what is being revealed to you is your own brokenness and your need for healing and where that healing can be found. And then how your brokenness and healing journey may bring healing to another's brokenness, with love at the center of everything. So he brings you to this fork in the road where you could go left and suppress all the things you have come to know, all the wisdom and the revelation that God has given you about this brokenness, and you can, for whatever reason, continue in this sadness, this story, this self-identification, because who are you without your sadness? Or you can go right and you can die to your brokenness. You can die to your sad story. You can offer it up to God. Trust him with your brokenness and allow him to heal you, to use that which broke you for glory and to help others. You can walk a path of healing and growth toward the ultimate end of heaven, wholeness, goodness.
In heaven, everything we say or do has to be completely moral and good as to not cause suffering or sin.
The framing of this implies, again, an overriding of the will. She says, everyone has to, we have to be, everything has to be completely moral and good, rather than it will be. This is strange. I mean, yes, it's true. There will be no immorality or evil in perfection. How could there be? She says that the reason that everything has to be moral and good is so that we don't cause suffering or sin. Well, yeah, in view of love, surely she would agree that we don't want to cause suffering or evil, especially to those whom we love. How could we say that we love them if we desire to cause them to suffer evil or to suffer their brokenness? Cause being the key word there.
Everyone would have to have the same opinions on everything.
An opinion is a judgment formed about something, right? And it's a judgment that's not necessarily based on facts or knowledge. Opinions can be formed in ignorance. In heaven, we are not ignorant. Whatever judgments we may form will be formed on the basis of truth. I don't see the problem with this. I don't see why this is scary. This, again, is something that we strive to do here, but we do so imperfectly and in ignorance.
And if everyone's view of paradise is different, how can we all be in the same place?
Let me use Islam as an example, because their version of paradise is so radically different to the Christian one. In Islam, the view of paradise is very much catered to the unholy man. It is catered to a man who is very much controlled by his passions. In Islam's view of paradise, men have endless sexual partners forever and ever. They have all the material or physical pleasures that they may desire. Even the wives that they took on earth will continue to be in submission to them as their wives in heaven. Now, for women, there's no such paradise. So basically, it's all about sex. It's all about the physical pleasure of sex. And women are servants or sex slaves. And that's it. That's the ultimate end of this life. Now, just because this is someone's view of paradise doesn't make it reality. Whatever her view of paradise is, just because that's what she's imagining to be the nicest reality, it doesn't mean that that's actually what she's going to experience. That's so trivial. This is something you would say if you didn't actually believe in heaven. It's made from the flawed human imagination. I mean, it's not like you're going to, when you die, you're faced with this customization tool board and you start designing your version of paradise and then you're done and suddenly you're in this paradise. Heaven either is or isn't real, and it's not within our power to create.
What if your view of paradise is wanting to help others, but nobody needs help? Because it's
Once more, your desire to help others is rooted in love, or at least it should be. And in this life, there is brokenness, there is lack, there is loneliness, there is bad health, there is starvation. There's all manner of evils. Whether moral evils or natural evils or metaphysical evils. So your desire to help others that are suffering points to a greater reality that we are yet to experience. And your ability to act from this place, this desire, this love, depends on there being brokenness and lack. It is, in other words, a desire that is subject to this world. Then in heaven, all of these things will be ultimately deeply satisfied. Now, maybe that's not true for the person who helps others for other reasons, like selfish reasons, or perhaps to manipulate a situation or a person. But then these aren't coming from a good place, and these are the kinds of things that won't be present in perfection. These are the kinds of things that come from brokenness.
We remember anything that happened on earth? Well, we remember our friends and family members who didn't make it to heaven. There is no pain and sorrow, so even if I did remember them, I wouldn't be able to miss them or have empathy for them. Let's say a mother goes to heaven and her daughter goes to hell. She either would remember her but not be able to feel sad about her being in excruciating pain forever in the pits of fiery hell, or the memories of her daughter whom she loved so much would just be erased. What if the only bad thing the daughter ever did was just not go to church? Rules are rules, so she gets forever torture. On to my next.
Earlier, she quoted from Revelation 21 verse 4, which assures us that for those in heaven, God, in the end, will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more, neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain any more, for the former things have passed away. How will we be able to know of the existence of the damned without being pained by it is a mystery. But we can only conclude that the glorified human mind will be configured in such a way that it is indeed able to recognize both God's justice and the free choices of men that led to damnation without pain. God's own beatitude is not damaged by the existence of hell, and he will not allow our ultimate beatitude to be damaged either. As for the daughter, these aren't the rules. No one goes to hell by accident. It is not a place you just end up. If someone is ignorant of Christ through no fault of their own, there's no sin in that. The daughter, if she hasn't flat out rejected Christ with full knowledge of what she's doing and full consent of her will, why do you say she gets forever torture? Also, we know Christ is not constrained by our knowledge. He can work in a heart even when that heart is only dimly aware of it. Jesus speaks on this in the parable of the sheep and the goats. How are the nations judged? They're judged by the way that they responded to Christ when he came to them in disguise. I was sick and you visited me, hungry and you fed me, thirsty and you gave me something to drink. And how do the sheep and the goats respond? They respond with surprise. The point is, we may not know it, but Christ comes to us even when we don't or can't come to him. This is why the church encourages us to hope and pray for the dead. We mustn't pretend that we know what God is up to in the lives of other people. We know where the church is. We do not know where it isn't. Basically, a person who goes to church isn't necessarily going to heaven. And the person who does not go to church is not necessarily going to hell. Those aren't the rules.
Whenever I ask a Christian, why does God allow so much evil, they always say because God allows us the gift of free will, and without free will, we would just be robots, and there is no good without evil. Wait a minute.
No, you wait a minute. That's inaccurate. It is not that there is no good without evil, it's the opposite. This is very important. There is no evil without good. Evil is a parasite. Evil does not exist in and of itself. The Christian who says that evil exists because men have free will is correct, sort of. In that, free will means we've got a choice to commit a good or an evil. Evil does not exist in and of itself. It is a deprivation of good, like rust or decay. But good in and of itself does exist. The negation of the positive only exists with the positive, not the other way around. Let's continue.
But in heaven, there's no evil, right? There's no sin or sadness, and everyone is good and pure. Let me get this straight. You say that evil exists because we have free will. If we didn't have free will, we would all be robots. And also, heaven has no evil. Here on earth, we're all sinners and nobody's perfect. But if we are made to be perfect in heaven, then wouldn't we all be exactly the same? Robots. How would
This is a better way to put it. For love to be real, it must be freely chosen. God has given us free will, knowing that precisely because it is free, we may choose not to love. We may choose to act unlovingly, to sin against him and our neighbor, breaking the two greatest commands, to love God and to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. Now, her line of reasoning goes something like this. Evil exists because we have free will. Without free will, evil would not exist. There is no evil in heaven, therefore, there is no free will in heaven. This is false. It is false that evil exists because we have free will. So that's the first premise, if you like. Evil doesn't exist because we have free will. Evil doesn't exist strictly. Evil is absence, lack, darkness, void. Good is fullness, wholeness, light, substance. Free will is a good. By it, we can choose love. It doesn't logically follow that because there is no evil in heaven, we will not have free will. The nature of eternity is such that a choice once made is forever made, whereas a choice made in the present moment, here and now, becomes past and affects the future. It can change the future. But in eternity, a choice can be thought of as an eternal saying of yes or no. When the soul enters into the direct presence of God, it is impossible to sin. The inability to sin in heaven, however, is not a negation of free will. It's a result of the will having been purified and fully conformed to what it ought to be. That is, to the will of God.
How would our appearances change to be perfect? What does that look
I don't really care about that. I don't know how our appearances would change. I do know that whatever it is, it's good. It doesn't mean to be conformed to human standards of beauty and perfection, if that's what concerns you. It will be true beauty. It will be true perfection.
Would I just be a soul with no thoughts of my own, made to be artificially happy forever? Your soul will only feel happy about it, so you won't even care. I care now. And who?
My current understanding is that no, there will be no loss of individuality. It's not as though you're just a blob and then when you die, you'll just get merged into a bigger blob. I mean, that would basically mean you cease to exist, wouldn't it? But there is this idea of the communion of saints, with which we are currently, in this life, connected to. As for being artificially happy, I don't know why you have to use the word artificially. Why can't it just be that we're happy? I think this is, again, an attachment to the material world, that it's just these material things or these things that pertain to life right now that bring us little pieces of happiness, that we can't actually comprehend what happiness is beyond that, or beyond these people or these things. It's a very human position. That's why I enjoyed this video. It's very unapologetically human, you know? The problem is that the material world is not all that exists. Being artificially happy more likely describes the happiness we experience here on earth than what awaits us in heaven, though I wouldn't use the word artificially even to describe the happiness we feel on earth, at least not necessarily. Also, you won't be a disembodied soul forever in heaven. You'll have a body, at least according to Christian theology.
Who am I without sin? If I want...
There it is again. Who am I without sin? Who am I without my sadness? Who am I without my brokenness? This is the question we are all faced with when Christ appears. I would love to know what her answer is. Who would she be if she was happy? Who would she be if she was whole? Who would she be if she was perfect? Again, that's not a human standard of perfection. Who would we be if we were in the direct presence of God?
If I wanted to eat an entire pint of ice cream, wouldn't that be gluttony? Am I allowed to do that in heaven? Can you sin in heaven? Can I litter in heaven?
I don't think either of those things are things you should be doing on earth. Neither thing seems to be very good for you, regardless of you wanting to do them.
Heaven, you won't even want to sin, so the desire I have right now on earth to eat a pint of ice cream will be restricted somehow in heaven? Would my thoughts of sin be repressed? If some thoughts are repressed and some thoughts are given, then how do I know if any of my thoughts are my own?
Yes, your free will be purified and you will not desire bad things. You will not desire brokenness. The desire to eat a pint of ice cream isn't a sin necessarily, though again, don't know if you should be doing that. That's a lot of ice cream. It isn't about repression of sin. It is about perfection. It's about purification. Purification of desires. I think that this is something that often gets bypassed when we talk about sin, especially with non-Christians. Sin is just described to us as this just really bad thing that you need to stop doing. It doesn't matter how you feel about it, just stop it. Now, while that may be true, you do need to stop. It kind of bypasses the way in which you can actually stop, which is desire. If you do not desire to stop doing the thing that is sinful, you're not going to stop. Underneath sin is a genuine longing for something, for some good, whether that's love or joy or security. Because we are broken and we have been broken by others, we pursue these things in the only ways that we know how. But what God offers us is the purification of those underlying desires, meaning that they will not come up in us in the form of sin. They will come purified. They will come as they were intended to be, and they will be satisfied. Praise the Lord. So it's not about repression of sin, it's about perfection. Perfection is not a human concept. Our concept of perfection is lacking, and oftentimes it is perverse.
Am I allowed to opt out? Am I allowed to leave? Am I allowed to ask questions? Or would my mind somehow be altered to just accept everything and be happy about it?
That's an odd question to ask, isn't it? Considering everything I've said so far. Why would you opt out of happiness? Why would you want to leave God? These questions, they point to, again, a low view of heaven, of God, of happiness, of joy, of perfection, of pleasure.
What's wrong with just going to where I was before I was born? I would rather just cease to exist than go to either of those places. Sure, before you were born, there were no joyous experiences, but there was also no death, sorrow, crying, or pain, or pressure to be perfect. There is just nothing, and that is what makes life meaningful.
So what makes life meaningful is nothing. So life is not meaningful. You should read Ecclesiastes. You're not going to be pressured into being perfect in heaven. You're just going to be perfect in heaven. No pressure.
And the requirements to get into heaven also make no sense, and I can talk about that for hours.
Right, let's conclude then. What are the requirements to get into heaven? We've established that it's not as simple as attending church. So how do I get to heaven? Well, let's set up the context first. We are saved by grace. Grace is a gift. It is not something that you earn, nor is it something you deserve. It is just a gift that comes from the love of God. In that context then, how do I get to heaven? Repent, have faith, and be baptized. And if you thereafter commit mortal sin, repent, have faith, and go to confession. And the caveat for those outside of the church, well, the church teaches that faith can sometimes be implicit, subconscious maybe. Such people may not have the theology, but they truly strive after the divine, and they submit themselves to it to the best of their ability and knowledge. The simple desire to submit oneself to what is truly good can be enough of a starting point. Some atheists have the most basic level of faith, though they don't know or understand it. The church teaches that God's grace is still active in their lives. Those who, through no fault of their own, do not know the gospel of Christ or his church, but who nevertheless seek God with a sincere heart and, moved by grace, try in their actions to do his will as they know it through the dictates of their conscience. Those too may achieve eternal salvation. But then, so what's the reason that the church still evangelizes such individuals? Well, the reason is love. It is so that they can be brought into a more explicit faith and a deeper communion with God and with one another. That is all.